Alright guys, welcome back. We're at round 3 here in the monthly cup, and we've had a lot of 3-0s this tournament for what I'm told. Scorch letting us know that Imperia is currently 6-0 from his first 2 rounds. We saw Iwin again go 3-0. We saw Superb Lizard go 3-0. Is this the era of Rush? Are players just bringing Rush Cappuccino to punish all these greedy decks?
I'm wondering that, but at the same time, I would have expected red to be strongly favored against Rush. Most red decks with those ground shakers, with the Brigands, it's really hard to deal with. So maybe he's playing Rush and he's managing to just have the flowers line up nicely, but I think it's probably more the case that we'll see something similar to what Mayhem was doing, because I know Mayhem is in the same team, right? They're in Team
Yeah.
Faeria Tails. So I think because they're practice partners, maybe it's the red-yellow that's been performing really well for them.
Yeah, Imperia is going to be going up against Sweetie, so 2 Titans are going to clash here in our first Oversky monthly cup. Looking at the bracket here, we have Strudel and R2R progressing. Lou going up against Ranma. I win again, and Lizard playing it out in round 3. And we have Imperia and Sweet as our next round 3 match showdown. So you can watch him, I Win Again, and Superb Lizard over on the Korean stream if you're interested in that match. But S of Dawn, Mino, Teddy, and Raizo all still in this tournament. So we have plenty of great players competing now in this monthly cup. And this match is a bounty match. Imperia got second place last tournament. Forever second, unfortunately, for Imperia. But maybe he'll get first this time, and we're going to have to see a bounty claim from his opponent, Sweetie, who's no slouch. Cappuccino, you know Sweetie pretty well. So how do you feel he's going to do against Imperia?
Yeah, I used to scrim a lot against Sweetie, and we used to be on the same team and try and compete together. And I would expect Sweetie to bring stuff more like how I would be bringing out, the tempo, the combat, those kind of decks. So if Imperia is playing a rush deck that he's managed to go undefeated with, I think Sweetie's going to have the upper hand, but I guess we'll have to go in and see.
All right, let's get into this game, guys. Imperia versus Sweetie. It's going to be a clash of the gods. Both these players have done so well in competitive Faeria in its history throughout the core set, but now we have the Oversky, and we have a whole new set of cards to play with. Let's see which player has prepared the most. Maybe not even the most, maybe just more awareness of what the metagame will be like in this monthly cup. All right. Do you feel? Where do you feel Red Yellow Burn stands if this is Imperia's opening deck? Do you think it's good enough right now?
I think it should be favored normally against burn decks, or normally against the rush decks, sorry, because you have things like your ground shaker, you have brigands, you have gift, you have so many creatures that just line up really well against rush decks. And yeah, looking at it, Imperia has gone undefeated with what looks like to be a red-yellow deck, and I think Sweetie with mono red is usually favored because you're able to find a lot more value in your ground shaker paints because you have the ciphers, the flame burst, and you can draw a lot more. You don't have to be making those deserts. So this is a matchup where I would normally prefer to be the mono red, but it's interesting because with grappling hook and land acceleration and Captain being such a value card, maybe we can see this dip back into the favor of the red yellow.
You know, I found in this matchup because I played against S of Dawn recently, who's been playing this with mono red, and if the red yellow player is able to get a flash wind going with a Kaleem's training on that combat creature, it can be very difficult to stop the snowball at that point because one flash wind and they're at your orb and they're pushing lots of damage, or they're double collecting much faster than you. So it can very much come down to those Kaleem's trainings in the early game. But both players going down the same side.
Yeah, very often the first movement trick gets you the advantage in this matchup, and with mono red you can find your horse masters and actually get the movement trick first. So it's a matter of, it's a race. Does Sweetie find it first, or does Imperia find it first? But Sweetie actually going up the same side also means there's a chance that Sweetie doesn't even need the horse master. He might just be able to get the first trade option regardless.
I kind of feel that the mono red favors going up the same side as the red yellow because they're the ones who want to initiate combat with them. They want to be able to clear their creatures. Whereas if the red yellow player goes on the other side, It might force the red player to shift sides, just to challenge those Kaleem's trainings, those flash wins, that heavy amount of aggression. We even see Imperia taking a far more defensive line here, going into the well with that desert, just dropping that ground shaker for good measure.
Yeah, getting those collections matters so much, and Sweetie actually running Grimguards too as his, I guess, tech against rush decks, just to make it slightly more favored in the mono red. But, you know, one of the other things you bring up, going the same side as the red player, is you want to get those bomb slinger positions, right? If you are running bomb slingers, that's yet to be seen for Sweetie, but you want to make sure you have those aggressive lands for that.
And it looks like Sweetie might just go into the well at this point. I don't... Do you want to push down with just a Grimguard? It doesn't feel like it's worth it. Maybe if Sweetie had a more aggressive creature, maybe a Ground Shaker of his own, he could have made a land just directly below the boss and played that card. But Grimguard not really matching the power level of this Ground Shaker.
Yeah, there was a question of whether Sweetie actually just mounted on the other side and set up the Grimguard to be a collector there. Because it is a 2/5 body, it's very... It's really good against any type of AoE pings or firestorms. It's very sturdy in that regard. So a little bit surprised he didn't go for that, but once again, if he is running the bomb slingers, it makes sense to get multiple mountains aggressive.
So this is an opportunity for Cap 10 to come down, the Sky Pirate, our robotic crab-lobster hybrid. Not really a good position for him, unfortunately. I mean, both players are really respecting Gift of Steel at this point. But maybe Imperia doesn't mind Cap 10 coming down. I don't know.
I gotta say it's a tiny surprise that he didn't play it, just because if you find training, you can start double collecting on the left side. But maybe he's just imagining that if he does find training, he's gonna be taking trades on the right side, so he didn't want to play into any type of AoE. Because we've seen Sweetie hold Faeria, so this is the Garradin turn if he was running it. And actually picked up Horsemaster, but it's a turn too late because he's already drawn a card.
I think the issue Sweetie's having right now with his draws is tons and tons of removal and utility, but all the targets currently on board have too much life.
Yeah, finding all 3 copies of his Cypher's Wrath. Would have been really nice if the opponent was playing Horsemaster, but unable to find a target currently.
I mean, there is the option to Firestorm and Cypher's Wrath, the Grimguard, but the Ground Shaker's going to collect anyway, so it doesn't really make much difference. Just going to go for the Grimguard instead. So if that was a Grimguard on its own, you might have considered the Firestorm to stop the collection, but because the Ground Shaker will live, the collection is going to remain the same regardless.
Imperia actually has the ability now to full clear, I believe. Yeah, he's able to just flash from both creatures to take hits, play the Ground Shaker if he wants to, or just Cypher's Wrath. In fact, just the Cypher's Wrath looks fine. He can double land one into the orb, one underneath the boss, step up with his Grimguard, flash wind it up, then flash from the Ground Shaker to hit into the Grimguard. You hit the boss Cypher and maybe just reload the board with a Captain.
I like that a lot. There's no Scourge Flames in hand right now. You have all the special lands needed to play everything from hand. So taking the opportunity for a full clear looks really inviting. I'd be surprised if Imperia didn't go for it.
Yeah, the only reason not to consider doing something like that is if you're worried about AoE, but it doesn't usually get any better. Decides not to.
Interesting. Okay, maybe a little cautious of Firestorm at this point. Just taking care of the boss before it gets any value with a Gift of Steel. But it does allow the Grimguard to double collect, interestingly enough. And now, Firestorm Cyphers is nuts.
I actually think Firestorm's better in this situation. Even though it's not hitting 3 targets, the boss lining up so well on the Ground Shaker to set up Firestorm, and then Cypher's Wrath on the guard, lets you double collect. It was just a much better scenario for Sweetie here, and Imperia now having to try and get back onto the board, which is really hard against red.
Especially with that Grimguard with 5 life. Ground Shaker could come down. Could even play it in a central position. Cap 10 could come down. As well, there's that Flash Wind to get some Faeria if it's needed. Maybe go to the other side. I don't know. That was such a big swing for Sweetie, really. Being able to clear both those creatures, keep the Grimguard at full life, and set up that double collection.
Yeah, I'd be curious if he wanted to also drop the Ground Shaker, but decides not to, and he's going to get punished for reserving his hand so much, I think.
That is such a good draw. So now the Horsemaster Gift of Steel, Cypher's
Yeah,
Wrath.
it's a bit unfortunate he can't also develop the Ground Shaker as a sturdy collector. We can expect Imperia to kill off any creature that's between the walls that's, lower life than 4.
And this is such a fantastic line of play for Sweetie. Going very well since that Firestorm play, which unfortunately Imperia played into a little bit, like you said. It's really put him far ahead, and now Imperia's trying to fight for initiative again, but that 5 life on the Grimguard proving to be quite a problem.
We might just have a battle of the Grimguards, because if the Cypher's Wrath comes down on that Horsemaster, he can play the Grimguard to taunt up Sweetie's one and then gift it, and he'll have a 5/8 beside a 5/5. It's a matter of Sweetie being able to find a gift of his own.
And if Sweetie was to find a gift, it'd swing straight back into Sweetie's favor. So a bit snowbally at the moment with how these players are playing out their turns. So kind of just banking on no removal here. No gifts. Oh, there's a Flame Burst that lines up. You can make the clear, but there's no follow-up play either, so you don't re-establish your initiative. So maybe Ground Shaker?
Oh, I was surprised he went for that. He could have instead just played the Ground Shaker between the walls and not kill the Grimguard that turn because it wasn't collecting. Yeah. So even if Imperia gets to make the trade next turn, you have the Ground Shaker able to double collect and then use Cypher's Wrath to finish it off instead of needing that Flame Burst. So I think a bit of a misstep there by Sweetie. Unless he was trying to play around like Flash Wind to hit face, maybe he was worried about just dying to burn damage if it got Flash Wind to hit face.
I don't know, I do agree with the Ground Shaker play. I was very surprised to see the Flame Burst because you don't have board. You pass on an empty board to your opponent and then takes initiative, gets to set up a creature of their own. And now this charge is even stronger than from being played behind a Ground Shaker because it can have influence on the board on the next turn when Sweetie develops his creature.
Yeah, and maybe a read by Imperia saying that if you had Bomb Slinger, you would have played it last turn, made the Mountain Bomb Slinger the Grimguard, and then hit in instead of using the Flame Burst. So I'm going to play my Charger and just hope you don't have it.
Ah, man, this is tough for Sweetie all of a sudden. He knows there's Flash Winds in this deck. Where can you play a Ground Shaker safely at this point? This Charger needs 2 events to clear it.
Yeah, currently has 1 in hand.
It's
I don't know if there's many events he could find. It's like training. Training is probably the best one since you've already played 2 Flash Winds, right? No, he used 1.
Speak of the devil, there he is training. So if a Ground Shaker did come down, that would have been a clear on it with the Charger and a Ground Shaker developed for Imperia. But now there is this Horsemaster in the way of double collection and just setting up for Sweetie's Ground Shaker on the following turn.
There is a question now as Imperia being the burn player of, do you just Flash Wind to hit face for 4 and develop the Ground Shaker, and then next turn training the Ground Shaker to hit face? Or alternatively, he could go even more all in, training Flash Wind hit face for 7 damage and drop the Ground Shaker beside Sweetie's Orb. You'd put Sweetie on 8 and have a Ground Shaker next to his Orb, and looks like the line he's going to go for.
I like it a lot. Pushing lots of damage, putting a big threat next to Sweetie's Orb. And he's going to have to deal with this with only 7 Faeria. He's a nice clean clear on the Charger with the Ground Shaker, but that's not enough to stop Imperia's Ground Shaker. So very, very good play there coming down from Imperia.
Yeah, so one of Sweetie's options is just hit in, play the Ground Shaker beside the other Ground Shaker, and just hope that there's no way Imperia can finish you off, but I'm almost certain that this is going to be Imperia with a lethal within the next 2 turns.
Yeah, oh, yep, there it is.
There it is.
Cappuccino, you cursed it. But Imperia takes the game, and that is going to be a 1-0 lead for him. Very, very strong opening from both players, I think. Sweetie, made a great play with that Firestorm, but then unfortunately got punished after he did the Flame Burst play, whereas, as we were saying about the double Flash Wind earlier, we could have seen a full clear come from Imperia, but in the end, that Flash Wind made all the difference finding that lethal.
Yeah, and if I know Sweetie's lineup, I'm going to be expecting Yellow Tempo to come down, potentially with multiple chokings. Unless he's gonna try the other deck. Now I have some insider information from scrimming against him, so I can't reveal too much until it's seen, but yeah, it looks like it is going to be that yellow tempo deck with the Chokings.
And the Manta Rider as well, making an appearance again. We didn't see much of this card, unfortunately, when it came down for Senelian. We had too many Mace Men on board. But now we might see it do some work against this combat deck. So this combat deck has proved really successful for Imperia, and it looks very similar to the style of deck Mayhem played against. So, played with, sorry. So very interesting to see Red Yellow Burn returning for the French players. They were some of the pioneers of this deck in competitive play in the monthly cups. They've found success with it in the past.
Yeah, and it can be so great against Rush when you get out these early Grimguards, because Rush can just be in this pickle where you can't hit face with your haste units, like whenever you start with Monk, Follower, or Salmon. And then when you do find your Demon, they have Gift of Steel for the Grimguard, and they buff it, and they take the trade, and you're just taking this incremental damage, and then, you know, suddenly they have a Scourge Flame go face, and you just die.
Yeah, he can do a lot of burst damage. We can see Imperia actually taking a more defensive line with his land this time, thinking, well, if it's Rush, you know, this mountain on the left allows me to build defensive lands. If it's not Rush, I can still explore mountain to the lake, to the well, sorry, and that allows a double collection with the Kaleem's training. Gives good flash win lines from that position.
Yeah, and training Flashwind is going to be so huge as mobility for that Grimguard if he chooses to develop it. But that said, it is still 2 lands away after he makes the mountain, so going to be a bit slower. If Sweetie finds movement first, he might be able to get these trades.
One of the interesting things about Red Yellow Burn in relation to the Oversky is it was a land-heavy deck before the Oversky came out. That still hasn't changed, but it didn't really pick up any tools to accelerate its land. That was mainly put into green as far as land ramp goes. So interesting that this is more of a traditional kind of core set deck that uses the slow land progression.
Yeah, some of the only cards I can think of that might have had an influence in this deck is Reveler. To get gifted is really nice. It's also okay with training because you get that 2 Faeria back. But other than that, there's Manta Rider, Sky Anemone. Anemone might be played in this deck as a one-off.
Yeah, maybe to help in the Rush matchup, just drop that down anyway, slow down those monks. But we're going to see the Manta Rider come down. And what's really nice about the Manta Rider here is it directly challenges the stat line of the Grimguard and lives to tell the tale.
But Groundshaker Cypher is going to line up nicely to kill off the Manta and just leave him with that 2/2 body if he opts for it.
Yep, that's true. Oh, just going for this now. So saying to Sweetie, oh, actually, I like this even better, yeah. Just getting the 2/2 out now, and then the Grimguard is much safer.
Sweetie finding Flashwind means he can actually Flashwind Soul Drain the Groundshaker. Actually, he can full clear, right? If you Last Nightmare the Groundshaker, you double land towards the Grimguard, and you Flashwind the Charger. That's a full clear line.
Oh, very nice. And those old yellow plays still being relevant today in the Oversky. Getting those charges into great positions, moving them around with events, and taking care of business. So very nice play from Sweetie there. And now Imperia is Faeria starved without a play for this turn.
Yeah, Yellow Tempo's always been one of my favorite decks because of its ability to starve out opponents. You know, you just take control of the board, you stop them from getting any resources, and then once you're ahead enough, you just go all in on face. And Sweetie managing to do that very well with those trades.
It's going to be very difficult for Imperia to come back here, actually. He's low on special lands. If he goes for a Flame Burst now, I guess you could Flame Burst the 2/1 charges, stop the double collection, but still Sweetie will still be very far ahead. With this little Manta on board, can maneuver, collect Faeria, and it gives Sweetie some breathing room. Maybe even set up aggressive desert on the left-hand side, just between those mountains, and if a Shaitan Demon came down, well, Imperia would be in all sorts of trouble.
I think the average curve for yellow decks is usually around like 2.5 or 2.2. So I think Sweetie actually wouldn't have enough card draw to maintain the ability of triple collecting or quadra collecting. So I'm a little bit surprised Imperia didn't just save and wait for a Groundshaker as his way of getting back into the game. opting in to stop the double collection instead.
But now Sweetie has a nice double collection line of his own. He can just go and collect from the top left-hand corner, play the Fanatic on the right-hand corner, and then go back down, try a double collect there, set up tri-collection for the next turn, and Imperia is still in the same miserable position he was in last turn. Starved of Faeria, nothing to play, has to play, well, feels like he has to play reactively.
Yeah, and there's that grappling hook we saw when Mayhem was playing the deck. So it's really cool to see Charger grappling hook together. A bit unfortunate that, again, we don't get to see that combo, but...
I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Imperia just threw out the surrender at this point. I mean, if you flame burst any of these creatures, you're just, again, in the same position on the following turn. And Sweetie's going to be on 6 Faeria, going to be able to develop lands or develop more creatures or draw more cards. When you're in the driving seat with yellow tempo and a slow kind of burn deck like this is on the back foot, it's very hard to get back into the game.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree with you. But, you know, there's still a chance you can win in these games. When the opponent starts dropping demons and they're taking 2 damage and you find your Cypher's Wrath to kill their other collectors, you can sometimes squeeze ways back into the game just through burn damage. But Sweetie with both Soul Drains in hand, you know, Imperia can't see it, but from our perspective, this looks very, very hard for Imperia to win.
And going for the Manta Rider, is going to be able to double collect without land. Then the Fanatic on board can go to the left-hand side. Grimguard's a pretty nice pickup. It's going to allow Imperia to get something on board at least, but with the combination of Soul Drain, mobility, if a Choking Sands showed up, again, just be in a really, really miserable spot for Imperia.
Yeah,
here.
It's very interesting to see how Sweetie chooses to deal with this. Either using the Wind Soldier Soul Drain, using the Fanatic to push the other Fanatic with Soul Drain, or just trying to value trade with that 5/3 Manta.
I mean, the thing is, Sweetie doesn't have the rush here. He can literally just clear everything Imperia plays for the rest of the match and just sneak in a bit of damage when it's convenient. Like, there's no reason to be really hasty. And with all these resources, all these Faeria and a card draw, there's so many different ways to deal with this Grimguard. Take value with a 5/3, I like that line. Just use the Fanatic, set up another collector on the right-hand side. Potential quad collection going on in the future here with these 2 Fanatics with jump. And a Flash Wind off the top.
Yeah, I like taking the trades, like denying your opponent any chance of having a creature collect Faeria. But I almost wonder if Sweetie's missing his opportunities to get that Soul Drain played. Because if Imperia hypothetically just started making special lands now and just waited for Scourge Flame with Gift, there's a chance that Sweetie would just die to that. So he's going to have to turn on the aggression really soon.
I'm more than likely going to see a demon come straight down on the orb, put a clock on Imperia. Things are looking bleak. Nowhere near Scourge Flame, unfortunately. 3 lands only available to Imperia at this point. And another Flash Wind draw. Not what you'd like want. I don't even know what Red Yellow Bird even wants in this situation.
I think Ground Shaker is what you hope for most, just to play it on the left side well, but we can see Sweetie with lethal setup, and Imperia doesn't have a way to block it unless he puts a creature on the right side of his orb. But just didn't have the opportunity to stay in the game if he had done that, and Sweetie now with lethal.
Yep, can hit with these 2 creatures, jump the Fanatic over, hit with the Fanatic, Soul Drain the Fanatic, and then use the Wind Soldier to finish off the game. So well played to Sweetie. Very comfortable comeback there for him in this match. And he's going to tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, and Choking wasn't actually played. So Imperia won't have the knowledge that Choking's in the deck. Which might come into play if Imperia goes into a blue-green deck and makes a Shift and Octopus into a 3/7. We might see Choking get really good value there.
Some interesting stats about this matchup. Both players have played since the first monthly cup last June, and yet have never faced each other. So this is the first time they're playing in a monthly cup. And between the both of them, they have 7 top 3 finishes. So 2 of the most accomplished Faeria players are duking it out now for their tournament life.
And Imperia does opt for that blue-green deck now.
How do you feel this matchup goes, Cappuccino? Because I haven't played against a lot of Yellow Tempo. I think I've played against it once, and it was Nightingale on ladder. But what do you think of this matchup?
So in my scrims, I managed to find Yellow Tempo winning the majority of the games. It was something around like 75%. But, you know, Imperia with Battletoads, his deck's going to be a little bit different compared to what I was streaming against. So we'll get to see if the Battletoads adds value to the matchup.
Yeah, Battletoads basically means the Yellow Tempo has to work a little bit harder to clear the board, right? And they might have to use Soul Drains on them, maybe Wind Soldiers. And they are removal tools that are not being used on the bigger guys, like the Wood Elementals, like Fugoro. So perhaps the Battletoads will be enough to tip the matchup in the favor. We'll have to see. The Wood Elemental, going to be a great start here. Get a collector set up and setting up that land ramp, getting closer to those win conditions.
Yeah, to add a bit more to it, it was usually the case that, you know, Maceman with a movement trick or Demon with a movement trick would get a trade onto one of his elementals, and then you build up an advantage there, and then he plays another elemental, you get to finish it off with your already weakened Maceman. But with Battletoads, you have a little bit more breathing room where these toads can get the remaining hits in to finish off creatures. So Battletoads might just be the missing link that Blue-Green was looking for.
I don't feel like Imperia needs Battletoads just yet. I mean, you can just go for another Wood Elemental on the left-hand side. Maybe if he's fearing the Maceman's Wrath, I mean, you could move back, but there's not another desert, so he'd need to, like, Air Elemental desert to be able to get that Flash Wind playing, which you were talking about. So I think it's pretty safe right now, just chilling there on the right-hand side, and he can move back on the following turn when Maceman's in a more threatening position.
Yeah, and Sweetie, by double landing instead of making the desert, Imperia actually doesn't have to fear a Flashwind or a Fanatic, because Sweetie has to make a desert in order to play that card. So Imperia very strongly thinking about just staying where he is for this turn. Only training would be a punish.
And does this list run training? Do we see any trainings?
Yeah, it should be running, I think, at least 2 trainings.
Oh, interesting. So, yep, training would be a punish. If he had stayed there, but no training. Shaitan Demon coming down. And we're already seeing Frog Tosser becoming active very soon. There's actually enough land in this turn to make Frog Tosser playable. But the issue is, and this is kind of what happened to Frog Tosser once it got changed, it now trades with these kind of mid-range creatures like Maceman and Shaitan Demon. When it was a 4/6, if it stuck around, you know, you would usually 3-for-1. Now it can only maybe 2-for-1 at best if that frog gets something to do.
Yeah, Frog Tosser now, for even having to ramp to 6 lands, if you Frog Tosser a demon, yeah, they need the Soul Drain, but if they Soul Drain, it's actually an equal Faeria trade, despite it being a 2-for-1 carded trade. But Imperia has to be playing these elementals, has to be making those lands. It's a cost to him, and Demon is just so incredible first hit.
I think we're going to see maybe a 3/7 Octopus. Do you need Taunt in this point, or do you go for Battletoads here? And this is where Soul Drain comes really handy.
Yeah, I think I was favoring the Battletoads, just because, again, you want those little bodies to be lining up nicely. Though, I think I would have considered putting the lake in front of your orb and summoning the Toad on the right instead in front of your orb. Giving him that value trade already seems a bit iffy to me.
Considering where to put this last land, going to want to continue the land ramp to get access to that Frog Tosser next turn if he needs it, and just to build towards that win condition, and a Choking Sands being picked up.
That is a full clear if Sweetie wants to go for it. He can choke the 3/4 and Soul Drain the 2/2.
Oh, it's so worth it. Against Blue-Green, if you starve them on Faeria, it's really tough for them to come back, and this is what Yellow does best. Go for that Faeria starve, and Emperor's Command, what a pickup.
Yeah, he can +1 Emperor's Command the 5/1 to kill it, and then next turn be able to play either the Shifting Octopus or the Frog Tosser, if I'm not mistaken. He would be able to go for that.
Another option here is to develop a 3/5 Jumping Octopus to double collect next turn. Yeah, he goes for that, so I like this.
It's a bit risky if Sweetie were now able to find like a training and get that trade, or find a choking, Sweetie would be in a very strong position if he found that, but doesn't find it.
As Sweetie here, do you play into the Frog Tosser? I don't think you do. I think you just play a Mace Man. See, I don't know. I think Sweetie was in a good position to play Mace Man there.
Sweetie maybe with a blunder there, saying, okay, I'll just try and all-in you. But he's going to be losing so much value, as you point out, to that Frog Tosser hitting into the 3-2 and summoning the Toad. Now, the bright side is the Maceman's in a position where it can collect, then kill off that Toad if he does target the Fanatic.
I guess
and he can't.
Sorry.
He can't play Command and Frog Tosser in combination with each other, so that's a bright side, at least for Sweetie, is he'd still have the Demon to hit face again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I guess this is the advantage of this line. You kind of say to your opponent, pick one. Do you kill my Demon, which is going to hit you for 5 again? Or do you kill my 3-2 for value, so you keep a 4-1 body and you get the Frog as well? And I think these type of lines I do appreciate quite a lot, because when you put your opponent in a position where they have to choose between 2 targets, it's far more difficult than just a linear play where you're just like, okay, I have this, I'll just do this. But now, really forcing Imperial to think what's more valuable here. What do you think is more valuable? I think killing the Demon this turn might be a little better.
I think I would have valued the Frog Tosser line the most. But we'll see the command come down.
There might still be a way to get Frog Tosser value, especially since you've seen Sweetie use 2 Soul Drains. So I like the command here. You just relieve a little bit of pressure. Then next turn, you're double collecting again. You're going to have a lot of Faeria to work with. And then you can get that Frog Tosser value.
Yeah, and Sweetie developing just all his creatures, making sure no matter what, he can get those collections in. And Imperia picking up Emperor's Command. Now, it's interesting, because Emperor's Command lines up Frog Tosser to actually value trade into creatures. It is a 7 Faeria investment, but keeping that 4 attack body can be so huge in matchups.
Oh, and the Fugu as well.
Especially if he goes off the knowledge that Sweetie's played 2 Soul Drains already, so having a 4-2 body is just even more likely to survive.
I mean, alternatively, you could just Frog Tosser the 3-2 from the bottom forest, and then it should kill 1 Mace Man at least. You can jump the Octopus back down, and then you could... See, you don't want to develop the Fuga. So I guess he's got 2 choices. You either go for the Frog Tosser, maybe with Emperor's Command, or you go for maybe Water Elemental plus the Fugu.
Yeah, he could play the Water Alley after double collecting, and then play the Fugu in front of your orb, and just try and block. But
aggro.
Actually goes for the race against Yellow Tempo, and really bold play.
I like it, because these Mace Men, as far as he know, are only getting 1 hit. 1 Mace Man is going to hit, but that Flash Wind now can allow him to push 8 damage. It's pretty nice.
I'm actually so curious if Sweetie wants to Wind Soldier the 3-3 just to stop the double collect. You are taking 8 damage next turn, so it's a bit risky. You'd have to find like Last Nightmare or Choking to try and delay some of the damage to stay alive. Actually, do you set up lethal if you just Flash Wind hit face? Maybe you're just forced to go into that line.
Yeah, I'd like to Wind Soldier the 3-3, but you don't get the hit with the Mace Man, the other Mace Man. I think hitting with the other Mace Man is really important here. And then, like you said, the Wind Soldier is kept in hand as a way to finish the game off.
One of the other things Sweetie might be considering is if he uses the Fanatic to hit into that Shifting Octopus, he can Flash Wind the Maceman to then value trade and survive as a 4-1.
Interesting. So, I mean, this race initiated by Imperia has opened up a lot of different ways Sweetie can play it the rest of this match. But I do feel the race option is just a little stronger.
Yeah, we might see double land. 1 for the Maceman to hit face, 1 for the Fanatic to jump aggressively, but... No, instead it's going to be Wind Soldier... Oh, that's to stop feed value, I guess?
Yeah, I guess so.
does Imperia have this? If you Mythmaker the Water Alley to trade into that 4/4, oh, you can't afford Command Heal unless you collect, but that's fine. You just collect with the Shifting Octopus, Mythmaker the Water Alley, and then you heal with Emperor's Command, and that should be game. Sweetie would need to find Training to have lethal. Actually, does Training even do it? Because he would heal up to 11, so you'd be 2 damage off with Training.
Yeah, I think you're right there. That is the best line here. I can't see anything else that keeps you in the game and keeps you in the race at least.
He could be debating just aiding the opponent, then Frog Tosser on the 4/4, and then the Water Alley just body blocks by jumping onto the desert.
That's a good line. I like that.
I think I still prefer the Mythmaker line, but hitting your opponent for 8's got to be tempting.
Healing seems very tempting as well, to be honest, especially at 7. All these Mace Man just swarming the board. I don't know. I'd probably go for the Aurora heal, personally, and I think... Oh, wow. Going... So, completely just...
Oh, heal and Frog Tosser. It looks... Oh. Okay, Frog Tosser, command, value trade. So, a bit risky. Flash Wind would be lethal now. Or Fanatic. That's lethal!
Oh my goodness.
Sweetie with the pickup. Fanatic, exactly what he needed, and he finds it.
Interesting line there from Imperia. Not, just pulling out the race, not interested in anymore. Decides to go for board play and just giving Sweetie an out to win the match with a mobility trick. And Sweetie goes up 2-1 with this yellow tempo deck. This is tearing up this matchup right now. What does Imperia have left? What did Mayhem have remaining? The red control
it was
style deck,
a yellow
right?
Nat deck, right? Or it was a Balloonfish Yellow Rush deck. That's all I remember is it was Balloonfish and he had the Crystal Flowers in that lineup.
Oh yes, of course, because the Senellian was on the red combat deck. So yeah, Balloonfish, Nats or whatever it was, very interesting. Let's see how it matches up against this very powerful yellow tempo list.
Yeah, I think there'd be Nats in the deck, but I can't say for certain because we didn't actually see it. The only thing we did see was the Scavengers, the Balloonfish, and then some of the Rush cards in Prayer. So maybe there's not any Nats. Wow, both players with fantastic opening hands. Sweetie able to Desert, Explore Desert to the same side, develop the Demon if he wanted to, and then next turn follow up with Manta. And Imperia with also a great rush hand. You have the Demon, Monk, and Follower.
Yeah, you have to go double neutrals. We did see Mayhem, I believe, go Desert for the Balloonfish line, and that works out if you have Balloonfish in hand. But if you don't, you just go for the rush plan.
Yeah, because there was the Crystal Flower in this deck for Mayhem, I would imagine for sure there's going to be triple Air Rally to get that land acceleration. So maybe a little bit unfortunate for Imperia that he didn't open up with an Air Elemental and to potentially like Monk hit face, but Demon is still one of the favorite cards to have in your opening hand.
You've got the option of Desert this turn, pass Desert next turn, Demon. That's an option. If any air elementals get picked up, that allows more aggressive lines. So there is a few good options for Imperia depending on what he draws next turn, but it looks like he's deciding on Double Land instead.
Yeah, Sweetie I think was playing around Air Elemental last turn by making the Desert to the side of your orb rather than in front. You don't want to make that land for them to Air Rally into like Follow or hit face Prayer. But now it's a question for Sweetie. Your opponent just double landed again and didn't play a Maceman. Is it for sure they have that Air Rally?
Oh, I didn't find it as well. So more slow play coming from Imperia. Going to have to develop 2 deserts over the next 2 turns before any aggression can happen. Man, if a Flash Wind was picked up there, that would be beautiful for Sweetie. Kaleem's trained into Flash Wind, hit face for 6, develop an aggressive desert, but unfortunately not picked up.
Yeah, somewhat interesting is the inclusion of Colossus. Depending on how many of those Sweetie is running, it's going to be neat because we've seen him playing Maceman. It's been more of a creature variant. So just curious how many events he's going to have to discount that. A lot of people lately have been discarding Colossus in fear of those flowers. They don't want it to get swallowed, but Sweetie's still choosing to include it.
Do you just dash Colossus down the middle? It seems pretty good to me.
It would block your demon from hitting face, so I favor the Manta more.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. A Manta has some durability. It's going to be able to protect your orb. And then once it gets cleared, say it got Wind Soldiered now, it will require another piece of removal before you can set up another haste creature. So a little awkward here for Imperia. This Manta causing some problems.
Yeah, I think for Imperia, you'd rather Desert on the right side, because if you Monk hit face into prayer, if you find a Wind Soldier, you have the Soul Drain already, you can kill that Manta and then have another spot to attack face. Actually, I guess he could do that regardless if he Desert on the left side, because you still can step on 2 lands. It just means if you find multiple demons, you can't develop them all.
Alright, doesn't find that Wind Soldier, unfortunately, so can't Wind Soldier into the Soul Drain. Could protect his Monk with a Balloonfish. That's a cheeky little thing you could do with that card.
I wonder if he'd prefer the Follower anyway. But it's interesting, because Imperia hasn't been able to find his Air Elementals at all. I wonder if he's running them. I would imagine so, but it is a thought now that we haven't seen it.
Curious of what's going to happen with this Balloonfish, if I'm honest. Is it going to just block the orb? Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's definitely a turn. Not something I was expecting.
Oh man, Sweetie has a lot of options here. I mean, just going down the list, he can Wind Soldier the Balloonfish, value trade with the Demon. He can play Colossus to scoot down if he wants to and value trade. He can just leave the Demon where it is and Fanatic the Manta to go face.
Oh yeah, so many options. I don't know, I still feel you need to play defensively for Sweetie. You don't want a big swing turn. I mean, Imperia's still sitting on 5 Faeria. If he picked up a Prayer with a Monk, that could really snowball things. Especially now there's been a draw, so there's no land being blocked on that well spot, so we can gain an additional Faeria from that as well.
Yeah, another thing Sweetie can do is he can just move on to both deserts of the enemy player. The Manta just steps onto the desert, trades. You play Fanatic, jump onto the other desert, and then Wind Soldier scoots down to kill that Balloonfish like I was talking about before, and Demon value trades into the Monk. Not going for it. Opts to collect. Is this him trying to race? Or his Demon coming back? He could actually come back with a Demon.
Just doing a Faeria Gathering shimmy there. Then Wind Soldier. Yeah,
it's actually another line that I maybe dismissed as Demon could have came back to trade. And maybe that was better because you're taking 2 damage per turn right now with your Demon. Maybe you prefer to actually just die off.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually, because it collects off the top well on the right-hand side, comes over, trades, you keep your 5 free, which is durable. But all these crystal flowers clogging up Imperia's hand, these are not the draws he wants to see.
Not only that, but you don't want to crystal flower that Demon, it's helping you, so there's going to be a debate of whether Imperia even plays them when they become available. Now that said, he does have a really nice follower hit face Soul Drain target already on that 3-2.
But the follow-up play just doesn't exist for him right now. All these flowers are really clunky. And now we're going to see Sweetie go in, apply some pressure. I think the only disadvantage with Sweetie's move there is he didn't get to move onto the enemy land and develop an aggressive land this turn.
Yeah, this is where Sweetie is starting to feel the burn from not using his Demon to kill the enemy Demon. He's going to be in a bit of a situation now where, you know, just from the Demon, he's dead in 6 turns. If the opponent hits him just a couple times, he's dead in half that time.
I really feel that you need to Colossus this turn because you couldn't set up an aggressive land to play a Mace Man. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like the Mace Man has to defend, be played in front of your orb, and this is the turn. Like, you just saw Imperia make another desert. you have to expect that flower's coming down next turn, and if you play into that flower,
Oh,
you're
yes.
going to lose with the Colossus.
That's true. That's true. Those pesky flowers.
Now, looking at this, can Imperia play it all? Can he Soul Drain the 2/2, collect with the follower, hit face, flower the Maceman, flower the Fanatic, and then also play the Templar? That's 9 Faeria, 10. He can do it if he +1s.
But he needs a land.
Actually, can you do it even with making a desert? We recount this.
Well, the follower's free, right? Because you can Soul Drain the 2/2 and you collect with the follower.
Yeah, it works. You can make the desert and then play 2 flowers, Templar, follower, and Soul Drain. So able to do the complete line. He's probably just adding it all up now, making sure he's counted it, a few times, making sure there's no mistake. And then it's also a thought of where do you want to position the flowers on top of that.
Probably just out of reach of this demon. Oh, wow.
Oh, but he doesn't go for it. He won't be able to afford it with doing it this way, unless the follower just collects without hitting face. Oh no, sorry, this still works. It's the same line, it's just he Soul Drained the 3/2. My mistake.
That is really interesting. Where that last flower was positioned. It's to block the demon from moving onto the land and then develop additional lands.
Oh, a great pickup for Sweetie though. With that Flashman, he's now able to kill off his own demon, thankfully. Flashman back, kill the Templar, Soul Drain the follower. I guess you have to start with the draw though, because you need to be finding a playable creature.
Yeah, you need a follow-up play with this. It's all well and good removing the board, but if you don't develop a creature of your own, you just pass an initiative back to your opponent, which you don't really want to do as Sweetie, especially on 8 life.
Oh, Sweetie's so tempted just to hit into that flower. But I think that's a game-losing decision. Like, he could hit into the flower, Last Nightmare, and Soul Drain to full clear.
I mean,
He'd be going to 6 life on his next turn.
There is a draw into Wind Soldier.
But Demon's not what you want to find either.
So we're actually going to have to see a slower line of play coming from Sweetie now. Probably doesn't develop the demon. Can't really afford it. I mean, you could develop the Colossus.
Colossus. Yeah, Colossus dash onto the enemy desert to deny the lane from collect hit face.
Yeah, it's looking like Colossus is the only way. It depends what Sweetie decides to do. Defensive Colossus or aggressive Colossus. Goes for the defensive Colossus, stopping those haste creatures from getting value.
Yeah, and this totally makes sense. And Imperia going to have to play the flower again. Could opt in for the draw, because if he finds a follower, he can collect and then flower.
Could wait a turn. I guess if you want to protect your other flower, you have to flower now. And what does waiting really achieve? I guess you do just have to flower this now. To protect your other crystal flower, to make sure that doesn't get cracked open next turn. Because you can crack it open, you get your 2/2 back. And then you have that as a problem. That can clear monks and fanatics and followers and all those sorts of cards. So yeah, I feel you have to flower just to starve Sweetie of Faeria as well.
Now you could just gamble, play the Templar, dash to the right side wall, and you threaten the ability to just potentially win if you find a Wind Soldier.
Well, the Templar line is also really nice as well, because you dash onto a well, so you collect. If anything gets played in front of you that blocks, you can then Crystal Flower that, and then push for 6. I actually feel...
it goes for the safe line.
I feel the Templar line was much better, now that I think about it.
Ooh, with Soul Drain picked up, I wonder if Sweetie's going to be tempted to now play the Demon. Though I think you draw for Charger or something else like Fanatic. You can now play the Fanatic and jump onto the enemy desert. Again, it's the collection line that's being denied.
So Sweetie holding on here, just defending.
And Imperia so badly needs to find a follower to get that Shaitan Scavenger to cost 2. It would get him back into the game. And there it is!
Oh!
Follower is picked up, which means follower Scavengers align, follower collect Templars align. A lot of options now for Imperia. Now, if the follower hits face and he plays the Scavenger, it's only Wind Soldier that's a punish because the Wind Soldier kills the Scavenger and the 3/2 value collects or value trades into the follower. Whereas maybe follower collect to play the Templar to dash is a bit more aggressive. It means the Fanatic can't get that value trade.
Do you think just Templar this turn? Templar dash and wait? And then if the Templar gets removed, you have follower Scavenger as a follow-up?
I think I would always, regardless, play the follower this turn. It's just whether I think I would hit face or collect with it. That varies. But I think you want the collection from the follower to threaten just multi-turn collecting. But I guess Imperia is going to agree more with your line and just go for the Templar.
Whoa, did he miss the dash?
I think the dash was just accidentally cancelled, and Sweetie now with a great trade.
Oh man, that is huge.
Yeah, that is a really unfortunate mistake for Imperia. And if Sweetie now draws into a Wind Soldier and is able to start hitting these structures, Sweetie could just win based off those structures.
Oh.
Choking's going to do it, so he can choke the 3/3 and hit into the Colossus structure.
And still has that Soldering in hand to sustain. This Colossus moves down, hits the other structure. Sweetie can then hit the other flower with the Fanatic, and it can collect again if that slot on the left isn't occupied. So fantastic follow-up there. And a massive error there from Imperia. I don't know what happened with that dash, but if he hadn't...
Now, it wouldn't have mattered since Sweetie picked up the choking. It meant that Sweetie had the clear regardless. So Imperia, when he watches the VOD and sees, you know, it wasn't actually that big of a mistake for him because Sweetie had the answer.
Alright, Scavenger coming down. I like Scavenger behind the follower here, blocking the collection from the follower. Making sure it doesn't get that Faeria when it cracks open that last flower. But then again, it might actually clear the follower, right? You might not have time to clear the flower at this point.
Wind Soldier in hand also makes me look at Imperia and say, you know, Sweetie's on 7 life. You have Wind Soldier in hand. The chance of just getting in that lethal damage, it's just... It looks so tempting to me just to play the Demon. Because if the Demon hits face, your Wind Soldier's lethal, and the Demon survives the Fanatic.
The Balloonfish! He's gonna
a line I didn't even think he would go for. This just seems worse, though. Will it work out?
Yeah, the only issue with this is Soul Drain or any kind of form of removal on the follower kind of sets you back so much as the rush player.
Man, this is another turn for Sweetie where I'm wondering if can you set up a way of winning? If you kill that Maceman and you desert drop a Demon, is that lethal setup? It'd be it's 16 damage, right? He has to think about that. Colossus hitting the structure, freeze Maceman, you can desert beside the orb of Imperia, but
going for the safer line. 7 life, feeling the pressure a little bit. This is the match point for Sweetie. Can go straight to the semis from here, so just gonna play it slow. Feels like he's in control.
Is he gonna leave that follower alive? I think Imperia, by holding or by playing the Balloonfish, would have been a sign that, you know, maybe there's a reason that he wants to keep the follower alive. That is lethal damage, but unable to hit face with it all. If he drew into... What could he draw into? If he drew into Prayer, into a flower... He's played all 3 flowers. Well, regardless, what is the most amount of pressure? He can hit face, he can develop the Demon, and then he can play a 2-cost Shaitan Scavenger as well. Sweetie might be getting hugely punished for going aggressive with that Colossus.
That's probably the best thing that Imperia can go for right now. Just flood the board with as many big creatures as he can, and then just trying to line up those Wind Soldiers for next turn.
I mean, it's also a thought, do you just Wind Soldier face? Because you're going to be doing that for lethal regardless. So Wind Soldier face just means it's so much harder for Sweetie to stay alive by blocking.
Yeah, the Soul Drain on the 0-1 doesn't really achieve anything. But the Soul Drain on the 4-3 does give him an out. So I think actually playing the Scavenger there was perhaps incorrect.
Yeah, I wonder if Sweetie's going to see it. He has to Soul Drain the 4-3 and kill it in order to stay alive. He has to get that full value heal.
But then again, a top deck Salmon, a top deck Follower is still lethal for Imperia here. So very, very close game right now. Could go either way depending on the draws and depending on what decision Sweetie goes with right now. And like you said, needs to Soul Drain that 4-3. And that Wind Soldier is going to finish him off. Goes for the double land. Going to push some damage of his own. Set up a lethal for next turn. But it might be too late depending on Sweetie's decisions. This is tense.
I know, he has to Soul Drain the 4-3. You have to go to 4 life, Sweetie. You need to survive to Wind Soldier.
What's he going to do?
The value in me looks at this, though, and says, just Soul Drain the 0-1 and kill the 4... No! Oh, he's going to Soul Drain his 2-2. Wait, he could have just... Okay, this is better, actually. Imperia has to draw into a prayer, into a follower. It has to be prayer follower back-to-back in order to win this now.
That's a prayer!
There's a prayer! That's exactly what he needed. If it's follower, it's lethal. Now, Imperia has already played 2 followers. It would be his final follower for lethal. Can he find it?
Oh, no! So close! Yet so far!
And that's going to be Sweetie with lethal next turn. No way for Imperia to survive. What an intense game between 2 of the most revered players in the tournament scene.
Well played from both players. A fantastic series overall, and wow, that is the quality of these 2 players, right? That match gives you an idea of how good these guys are, and man, he was so close to winning there. Imperia, he was trying so hard, but Sweetie was the winner.
And just the amount of lines that Sweetie had to actually contemplate that turn, or the amount of lines he had to contemplate throughout the game. There was so many times of, do I go aggressive? Do I come back? Do I defend? Do I draw? Do I keep making lands? Do I get the aggressive land? Sweetie just managing to navigate that matchup so well and finds the win.
Fantastic performance from both players. Sweetie moves on into the semi-finals, stopping Imperia from getting into yet another finals. Imperia has a thing about getting into the top 2 of the monthly cup a lot. So unfortunately for Sweetie, he won't be able to take that grand prize. I bet he's hungry for it as well, getting second place so many times. But Sweetie moving on. I think the last time Sweetie won an event was Battle of the Gods, I believe. He won the Battle of the Gods tournament, but hasn't claimed a title since.
And this is going to be a money grab for Sweetie, taking out the bounty of Imperia. So Sweetie making some more prize money.
Yeah, both bounties have been claimed. Strudel's been taken down. We've had Imperia taken down as well. And next we will move on to the semi-finals. We'll see who we have for you guys coming up very shortly. But don't go anywhere. We're going to a break, and we'll be back very soon.
Discover the Adventure Pouch Oversky, featuring a first-of-its-kind co-op campaign. Team up with either friends or powerful Faeria characters and discover a ton of new content, including more than 30 new cards. Join now to experience the Emperor's daily challenges and reap exclusive rewards. Explore the Oversky and reap the rewards today.